Alright, hello everyone, my name is Shep, welcome back to the Butcher Circus. Today, we are going to be watching a match between myself and Xladorl. So that looks like maybe a Nordic name? I'm not entirely sure, but they are a Darkest opponent, and they're running a very disruption-heavy stress team, while I'm running the Wynter DOT team. So we have Antiquarian, Jester, Flatron, Shieldbreaker. So we are gonna have a lot of DOT, we're gonna have a lot of dodge, but that dodge isn't really gonna count for much when the Man-at-Arms just goes for the immediate command. So they go command, I go battle ballad, so there's pretty much gonna be no dodges for a while. Which is kind of bad for us because we have dodge trinkets and we have dodge characters and they don't, so it is not the greatest matchup for a team like this, because with 3 disruption characters, like the Occultist, Crusader, the Abomination, they can push me around, they can pull me around, they can stun me, they can do a lot of things to prevent me from, for example, using my Flagellant action, which they didn't, but they might do it later. They can prevent my finale, there's a lot of things they can do. But yeah, I am able to drop the Drain of Sorrows there. We do get quite lucky to apply bleeds and blights on both characters, but then we get hit by, of course, the crit Demon's Pull, which we all know is quite annoying because not only does it apply 10 stress immediately because it was a crit, it also does an extra 50 stress because of the horror also getting increased by the crit. So one of the craziest abilities to actually crit are the occultist ones. So now there's going to be a slam and there's another crit against me, so even more horror on my side, even more stress, and now my Flagellant is in the back and quite hurt, which isn't the end of the world. Being a bit hurt with the Flagellant doesn't actually mean too much harm will come your way if you're playing in a matchup like this, because there's probably not going to be any follow-up. If I do move forward right now, mindlessly, I will just get slammed again, or I will get raged, and then I could go down, because I'll have nothing to actually prevent myself from dying. I won't have reach, and I won't have anything like that, so you really need to use your actions well. But what goes around comes around, and now we're gonna drop a crit Adder's Kiss on the Crusader, which dealt like 14 damage, and that's gonna be an extra 5 blight for 7 rounds, so that's like 35. So we did like 49 damage with one ability, well, over 7 rounds with that Adder's Kiss, which is really kind of insane when you think about it. So yeah, the Crusader is essentially going to tick down to 0. It will take a while, but he's going to just constantly be ticking down to 0, which is quite good for us. So here we're going to get slammed again. Keep in mind that the Man-at-Arms went command twice, so he's not even going to care about Pulse or Bellow, guards, anything like that. Not that he should. Going command here is definitely the play for him. He needs crits and he needs to hit every single ability, so we do get pushed to the back here, I think. I could Dirk Stab, I could do something like that, but honestly, Harvest here is just going to do more DOT to that MAA. It's going to get him down to 0 faster, which is what we want. He does have Protector's Kite, so he does actually have quite a lot of HP. So we just have to melt it slowly but surely. Hopefully not too slowly and more surely. So we're gonna get hit by a Stunning Bow here, and once again, even though we have 50 dodge on Shieldbreaker, there's literally no way we dodge with 2 command buffs on their side. So well played to my opponent for actually doing that. Here I could go take cover, I could move back, but honestly neither would really make too much of a difference, because I would still probably be enabled to finale. Because there's still that occultist action, and I wouldn't be able to get my Flagellant to act immediately, so let's just drop a Festering Vapor with the Materia Passes, do a lot of DOT to my opponent's side. And this is quite an interesting matchup, because they can really prevent me from getting death blows too easily, but they can't prevent me from just melting their team, because I have 4 characters that do DOT. Some of the abilities, even if I get disrupted quite heavily, even if I get stunned, some of the abilities are gonna go through and they are gonna bring them down to 0. But keep in mind that once the enemy characters do start dropping, they also have heals. They have 2 direct healers, not just 1, and of course the Abomination can heal himself too, so it's not going to be too easy. Here I just move forward position 1, because I want my Flagellant to act, of course, and that means that my Jester is probably not going to get finale for a while, but it's not the end of the world. He's already doing a good job. He dropped the Battle Ballad, which was really quite helpful. I think my opponent maybe should have prevented that, just gone for the immediate Demon's Pull instead of just starting with the command buffs, because this team really needs the accuracy from Battle Ballad, so you could have prevented that. But here, there goes a big rage. So that Abomination did have the damage buff still from getting a crit, and just hits my Antiquarian quite hard at 27. I'm gonna have to say that had to be a max roll, but oh well, whatever. I'm just gonna drop a redeem there. Kind of a preemptive redeem, but at this point, when you're playing the Wynter DOT team, one of the things that you have to care most about is keeping your Antiquarian alive, because with the Antiquarian dead, you no longer have a finisher. And this finisher is one of the strongest finishers in the game, because you hit all 4 characters at the same time. You also have to take cover, so you can stay alive for longer, and then when the characters all start dropping down to 0, you just start killing all of them with Festering Vapors. So if she dies, like, before round 4, it's just horrible. Even if my opponent didn't really have any good kill chances there, even if Weakening Curse was only 25%, it is still quite weird. Now, I will say it's a bit surprising that my opponent goes Weakening Curse here. They do have the Hand of Glory, which is giving them extra debuff chance and extra stress dealt, but I will say that just going Abyss Artillery probably would have worked out better for them than to just drop the Weakening Curses. I think what they want to do is kind of debuff my damage on the Jester just to make sure that I really can't Finale. But it is still quite a weird play for them to go for, but you know, I guess they're going for the Weakening Curse, so well, let them do that. It is going to get me afflicted sooner, or yeah, it is going to get me afflicted sooner, not faster. I mean, sooner and faster kind of mean the same thing here, but both abilities would get me afflicted, except Weakening Curse just does immediate stress, all the best artillery stress just piles on after a couple rounds of the horror. So now the Crusader is finally gonna drop down to 0, so you have the first character dropping to 0 at round 3, and here's one of the most important things about playing a team like this against healers. Even though they drop down to 0, they can still heal themselves out of their star, and in case of the Crusader, he can heal 2 characters, but he has enough DOT applied on him that once he acts, he's dropping right back down to their star. So this is when the collateral stress damage actually comes into play. Even if you don't have enough actions to bring them down to 0 again and then get the death blow, you can still stress them out with Festering Vapors, Expose, Punish, Rain of Sorrows. Eventually they will eat some very decent amount of stress. So yeah, here I'm thinking whether I want to go Regen or whether I want to go Festering Vapors. I end up deciding on the Regen because with the Crusader already dropping down to 0, I feel like I have gotten at least some pressure against my opponent now, and I feel like Regen would be good here in case a Rage comes, or in case a stun gets a crit with like the Abomination or something, or if my character drops down to 0. At least I'll be able to get him out of the store and ensure that I don't suffer 25% death blow, so I just do that. Here we're gonna get hit by that and does 35 stress, which is a huge amount. That's kind of the Hand of Glory coming into effect. Of course, the Monkey's Paw doesn't make me eat a little bit more stress too, but that's mostly because of the Hand of Glory. So now I have a couple options. I could have gone for an Expose. There was definitely a play here in going Expose onto that Crusader, because if I did enough damage, which was relatively likely that I would, well, I would give him kind of a choice. I didn't notice this at the time, I'm only noticing it now, but I could have given him a choice. Either you either you heal yourself, which is what you typically would do, and get finale'd, or you don't heal yourself and get hit by Festering Vapors, which is a 50-50 of being a death blow. So I could have given them that choice, but instead I went for a puncture, which I will say is going to delay the match quite a bit, so I probably should have gone for the other play, but once again I didn't see it. That is if I did drop the Crusader Death Star. If I didn't, they could just slam me, and then I would be in... it's still not too rough of a spot, but I'd be in a weird place again. At least getting the Occultist to position 2 is going to disrupt him quite heavily, and the Crusader can't go for stuns either. I'd rather get hit by a Holy Lance than a stun at this point, so there's that. So Hopeless goes for the immediate pass, so we're already looking at the value from those Weakening Curses, which of course I'm quite unhappy about. I would have loved to drop a Harvest out to make sure that the Occultist would drop down to 0 next round, but what can you do, right? It's not the end of the world. Here the Abomination is still perfectly fine. I haven't really hit him too hard with any sort of DOT, and there goes another rage, because that Man-at-Arms, you might not have noticed, but he's been going command buff after command buff. He's used, I think, 3 command buffs, and he dropped the Bellow just this round, so those characters still have a lot of those. As you know, command buffs equals crits, so that is most likely what's going on right now. Here I'm thinking with the Antiquarian, I'm thinking I could drop a Force Guard on the Jester, maybe make him stay alive for a little bit longer, but then I look at the DOT on the enemy characters and it's like, you know what, if I drop a Festering Vapors here, it might be a little bit better, because it is gonna start taking away at that Abomination. the Force Guard probably wouldn't change all that much, so you know what, just go ahead and go aggressive. The stress could be helpful too. So Crusader, once again, still dropping down to 0. Now he's gonna go for the heals, gets a crit 12 into a crit 12, of course. Not the best possible outcome, but almost the best possible outcome, getting 2 crits on that. The chance isn't too likely, each of them is at 12%, so I guess that's 12% and a 12%, probably like a 1.2%, maybe 1.4, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I'm not gonna complain too much. I'd say that there is still a bit of justice in this world, to the fact that I haven't gone down to any immediate death blows or something like that, so yeah. There is still a touch of justice. Getting like 2 crit heals with Rally to the Flame definitely sucks for your opponent, if you're the one that has to face it, right? But there's worse things in this game, there's worse. So there goes a Rage, which I was very confused about, because I was like, why would you do that? I know you had almost enough accuracy to get a guaranteed hit because of the command buffs and the Regis Cloak, but why wouldn't you just detransform and go for a stun in case you didn't get the death blow? I found that very weird. What I thought it could have been was them just making sure that they stay in transformation mode because they quite like being in transformation mode, but honestly they could just detransform, go for the stun, and then next round they just transform again. Of course they're gonna have to deal with the daze, but I think that would have been a very good play by them, but they didn't go for it, which is surprising. But you know, these very small things that look, you know, they look minute in the grand scheme of things, because like just one action that instead of going for a stun, you just went for a rage, potentially got a death blow too. I mean, my Chester's gonna go down anyway, right? But those very small things could come back to bite you, especially in matchups where both players know what they're doing, and it is quite difficult to win them, right? So, the Occultist is down to 0, the Man-at-Arms is gonna go down to 0, the Abomination is still fine, but he has some DOT on him, and I might be dropping a Punish soon. Crusader goes for a heal now, and I will have a death blow chance onto that Man-at-Arms, but one very important thing that some of you may have noticed, but probably escaped most of y'all because, well, I didn't mention it, is the fact that now I could drop a punch on the Occultist, but I see it as not too much of a guaranteed chance, so you know what, I'll just do it on the Abomination, apply more pressure. What happened was, my Antiquarian has a Death Store debuff, so she has minus 5% damage, and she went Paranoid, which is minus 25% damage. The enemy characters, 2 of them have protection, the Man-at-Arms can apply protection on another one by dropping a guard if he wants to, and he can apply battle debuffs, so my chance of actually doing damage here isn't too likely. Not to mention that my Antiquarian actually hits that Flagellant there, which doesn't cure his stress. What's up with that? I hit the Flagellant but don't cure stress, that's silly. So yeah, you can see there that I did 0 damage to the MAA because he didn't get a Death Store check on him. And I only had 1 Battle debuff at the time, and it's already enough to make it so I don't do enough damage. If that Crusader did have Bulwark of Light, you 100% should have dropped it. I got a question like a few days ago. Oh, you had Bulwark of Light against this DOT team, why didn't you use it? Well, I was bringing like a damaged Crusader team, and I did have the Bulwark, but I didn't use it because I was playing against something exactly like what I'm playing now, and it's because, I know DOT's just gonna kill me, it's not gonna make a difference. But if you have battle debuffs and you have protection, you can make it so Hound's Harries and Festering Vapors and Rain of Sorrows potentially do 0 damage with their abilities, which means that you don't have to worry about getting Deathblow, you only have to worry about getting stressed out. But, you know, those abilities don't do too much stress. What their intended purpose is to do DOT and then get Deathblow, so if you're not getting Deathblow, you're having a lot of fun. So here, I just go for more actions, just trying to kill that Abomination, and that Crusader just goes for a heal on the Man-at-Arms. Of course, do keep in mind that even if you're doing exactly what I'm saying and giving yourself a lot of protection and you give the enemy battle debuffs, they can still do damage. The maths and the game stats on actually doing damage or not with Festering Vapors are very unreliable. Sometimes you're not gonna do damage with just 1 battle debuff and like 5% protection. Sometimes you're gonna do damage with 2 battle debuffs, an Affliction, and 70% protection. I've seen that happen today, so do keep that in mind, that it is very unreliable when you actually do damage or when you don't. So the Abomination is gonna de-transform there. He did get a hit on the Man at Arms, which is gonna make it so I might get a death blow, and yes, we do. So the Man at Arms had 15 prod, the Crusader had... no, the Man at Arms had 10. Wait, no, he had the Protector's Kite, so we did have 15, and the Crusader had 15, but I did damage to one and didn't do to the other, so... how that works, you know, don't really ask me. You can do different points of damage to different characters, so it's just a lot of RNG on the already RNG heavy game. So now it's down to a 3v3. Of course, I do still have a Flagellant and a Shieldbreaker, which are both really epic characters, but my Anti-Crane isn't feeling too good, especially after this Weakening Curse. My opponent taking a massive gamble going for that Weakening Curse there, and not healing themselves, but I will say that is a good gamble, because now I have a 50-50 of getting a death blow if I do decide to go Festering Vapors. I could also just go for a guard, but I just say screw it, I go Festering Vapors. If I went for a guard, it would have just been transform. I could have gotten an act out pass the next round and things wouldn't be too great for me. But now, with that kill, the enemy Crusader actually goes focused, and this is a very dangerous combo because that's a focused Crusader and an abusive Abomination. The problem with abusive is that it gives you -5 accuracy, but with focused you can buff the character for 10 accuracy and 10 crit. So a character with 10 accuracy, 10 crit and 20% damage just from the afflictions and virtues would be kind of insane, but the Abomination goes for a click first. And really what kind of allowed me to be in this sort of dominant position against a team that usually dominates its opponent because it just has so much freaking disruption and stress is the fact that I just managed to refuse so many actions from that Crusader, and now refuse actions to that Abomination. Of course, he's still going for manacles, but he's putting himself at risk, and that's really what matters here. If I shift the pressure from my side to the opponent's side, it's still going to be a close match, but even matchups that aren't quite great for you can still be won with a team that's as dynamic and as really just efficient for good players is the Wynter DOT team, right? So yeah, the Abomination is still dropping down to 0 even after the heal. The Crusader is still dropping down to 0 even after the heal. And keep in mind, this is with Glorious Mana, which is a healing trinket, and with the Crusader, a character that can heal 2 characters at the same time. So one of the most difficult characters to go against. So yeah, he does a little bit of extra stress there that doesn't really impact too much, and at this point, what does he want to do? If he heals again, now he's gonna run out of heals eventually, and he's still dropping down to 0. Not only that, he might cure some stress, but he's gonna be eating more stress because I'm gonna go Expose, I'm gonna go Punish, I'm gonna go Festering Vapors. Of course, I might not have Festering Vapors for long, because my Anti-Crane is still in a rough spot. There's no more Weakening Curses or Bellows, so that's not the end of the world, but a Transformation will probably kill me from the horror that it does. And a Holy Lance is quite unlikely to get a kill, but it could also be a death blow. But I just say, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go Expose. If you want to go for a 25%, be my guest. If you do that, not only are you gonna be at this store with the Crusader, your Abomination is also gonna be eating more crits, so that's gonna be good for me. So if you want to go for the Holy Lance, you know, just have fun. But instead they go for the heal, which is what I expected, and now I can still stay alive with the Anti-Crane by going for a Force Guard on someone, even going take cover. I could even drop a regen and then regen myself out of this store next round. But of course, with the Transformation Horror and with the Holy Lance, I would probably still die, so maybe that's not the smartest move. And, you know, the Anti-Crane just decides to make the decision for me. She decides to make a decision. That doesn't make too much sense, but yeah. She decides, instead of letting me decide, and she says, you know what, if they can read my thoughts, then I will simply stop thinking, and just goes for a takeover, which honestly isn't a bad move. That just means she stays alive for longer, and that's what you want with the Anti-Crane. You want to have that death blow chance. So here goes a transformation at last, the second transformation, and this is a second transform at round 9. So I will say I have to disagree with my opponent's philosophy, because they should have done way more stress. My Shieldbreaker isn't even afflicted. This is why I don't really go for kind of generalist Crusader teams and more disruption on the stress teams, because if you do stress is disruption, so you don't really have to focus too much on actually just doing disruption if you're doing stress. So now they go for the Holy Lance, which was a 5% death blow, and at this point I'm gonna finish him righteously with the 15% death blow chance, because that's justice, right? Nah, it's not. But you know, this was quite a close match. It definitely had some close calls, and even though I was unable to use the finale, and even though I wasn't unable to use my dodge or my abilities whenever I wanted to, I still managed to pull this one through, which was quite satisfying. So anyway, hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you again another time. Cheers.